Hello, I'm Dr. Mikey Mewborn, and this is Leadership Development. Today we're looking at the topic Experiment and Take Risks. Now, all of us have taken risks in our lives at some point or another. We've done something, whether it was by force or by challenge, or maybe it's just encouragement. But just kind of a quick story to start us out for this lesson that I think has been very helpful for me. When I was 14 years old, I had a youth pastor ask me to preach in a student ministry setting. It was going to be a Wednesday night, but it was a little nerve-wracking for me. I was a young, timid boy, really, that just didn't understand what went into speaking. And I was terrified of it. I didn't want to stand in front of anybody and talk. It was not my desire. It wasn't my heart. I didn't feel like it was my gift. And so I just stayed away from it. But my youth pastor said that he saw something in me that he thought I needed to be up in front of people sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so he put me in front of a group of 100 students and said, I want you to preach the Word of God. And I saw something very special happen. I got up in front of everybody, knees were shaking, palms were sweaty, my voice was cracking. It was a mess. But in that moment, I saw God use me in a way that I'd never experienced before. And I began just to speak to the students, and I poured my heart out to them, a message about faith in Jesus Christ. And I got to see 7 people give their lives to Jesus Christ. That was in some ways taking a risk. I didn't know I was taking a risk. I didn't know what that even meant at the age of 14. Not really. But from there, it started me on a track to be in the ministry. And from there, I went to just taking risks all the time. And I didn't feel like they were taking risks as much as it was God just leading me to do what He's called me to do. And so that's how I got started in ministry. And I haven't turned back since because I knew from that moment on God would use me in this role. And now here I am teaching a class such as this. And so it's important for us to get out there and to try new things, especially if people are kind of encouraging to do it and they see something in you. I think that's a great time to take the risks as well. So that's maybe a little bit of insight into who I am, but also kind of what this lesson is all about. So it's good to be with you. Let's begin our lesson for today. Hello and welcome to Leadership Development. Today we're looking at the topic, Experiment and Take Risks. It's good to be with you today. Let's begin our study. I want to start by saying initiate incremental steps and small wins. So how do small wins work when we're talking about leadership or we're talking about business or corporations, nonprofits, things like that? How do you do small wins, or how do you create small wins for yourself? Just imagine trying to solve the world's problems, world hunger, homelessness, healthcare issues in one swoop. You're probably not going to be able to do that. However, you can try to help at least one community in a certain way. Focus on that first and then work on conquering the world's problems later. The same mindset works in business and in leadership. In other words, none of us can just go out and just solve the world's problems. But what we can do is make a difference where we are. So this is how small wins work. You may not be able to go out and just conquer something in a huge way, just control the market for something. But what you can do is you can start by these small areas and start seeing some wins that will help you to get stronger and stronger and build up a base of consumers, build up a cash flow, build up different things like that if you're looking at starting up a business. But also in the same way, when you think of the church world, you don't just go out and try to get everybody in one swoop. Instead, what you try to do is try to get people one at a time and try to reach people. Maybe it's one-on-one, maybe it's 1-on-5, whatever it might be, and that'll help you to reach more people in the end. That's the idea with disciple making anyways. When we think about what Jesus Christ did, He reached the world through really 12 people. And these disciples went forth into the nations, or into different countries, different areas. Then they discipled, then those people discipled, and the gospel went forth into the whole world. Why did that happen? It happened because one man, the Lord Jesus Christ, poured into 12 for a 3-year period, that poured into other people, that kept going. And that's how you see that. So that's how small wins can work, that can really impact the entire world. Mobilize for fast action. What we're talking about there is just the idea of seizing the opportunity, or know the trends and act quickly. So look to see what's going on around you. How are people reaching their communities? How are people helping their communities? What's one way that your organization or business can thrive? What's something we can do today? And we can see a win with all that. So seize those opportunities and jump into those. I came across an article that I thought was very interesting. 7 leadership risks you should be taking. And I wanted to read these through because I think they're helpful for all of us. Number 1, saying something in a meeting that you think might be unpopular, but knowing in your heart it's the right thing to say and will contribute to the group. That would be very helpful. And also would help a person just taking the risk, but it'll help the group as well. Number 2, leading a discussion when you aren't sure exactly how it will end up, but you trust your gut that it will get to the right place. Number 3, stepping out of your comfort zone, i.e., standing in front of a group and leading a discussion with all eyes on you. Stepping out and doing this type of risk-taking will be very beneficial to a person for number 1, for them to have a better perspective of what that's like, but then also, number 2, growing in an area that you might not be used to. And then the next one's number 4, declaring a future for your company and for yourself that isn't foreseeable. Number 5, interacting with people's bigness rather than their smallness. Number 6, giving people tough love and telling them the truth about where they are falling short. And number 7, raising the bar for yourself and for others and allowing you all to discover how to jump over it. All of these points are very helpful when we're thinking about stretching ourselves or strengthening ourselves. There may be some areas in your life that you don't even know you have, maybe some strengths, and you won't ever know those things until you take the risks. You know, it's interesting when people have asked me to do something that was out of my comfort zone. At first I bowed up and I said, I can't do it. But then after several times of being asked to do something that I'd never done before and going after that and actually seeing what it was like, I found that it was easier to take on new risks myself. And so I started to take the risk without any type of encouragement or instruction or challenge. I didn't need that anymore. Now I was just looking at something new and said, I want to try that, and I would go after it. And so that's what Charles Bernard is trying to say here. It's not only going to help your company when you take risks, it's going to help you better understand the areas that you are strong in and maybe the areas that you're weak in. But then you can begin to work on those areas and get stronger in those areas as well. So wonderful article to look at, wonderful article to read that I think is helpful for all of us in understanding what it means to take risks. I got a few quotes here that I think are helpful for us with this as well. Willingness to take risks is the path to success. This is a great quote for us because Biz Stone is saying in this that the real way and the right path or the real path for success is a path of things that are going to stretch you or put a little bit of a strain on maybe even your mind or your psyche because you're going down a different road than you normally would go down. But if you have the willingness to do it and go after it and take those opportunities, I'm telling you, it's going to help you in the long run in many ways. Another great quote is, be brave, take risks, nothing can substitute experience. So what comes out of taking risks? Experience. So when you do something that you're not used to doing, then you have this new understanding of what that is, and that experience is going to help you in other areas of your life. So if you're trying to learn a new instrument, or you're trying to get better at speaking in front of people, or maybe you're trying to learn a new sport or how to do a new job or new aspect of your job, whatever that is, it's going to give you a totally different experience and a totally different perspective of what it's like to do that. And it's going to probably give you greater respect for those who actually do it. I think that's very important for us to look at. There's some other quotes that I think are worth noting. This one is, if you're going to grow, you're going to have to do things that put you at risk. If you haven't made a major fall or fail in your career faceplant level, you aren't trying hard enough. I like that one because I truly believe the things that I've learned from the most of my life were the times when I've just made a huge faceplant in trying to understand a certain area. I failed terribly, and through that I learned a great deal. Next, be bold, take smart risks, make quick decisions, trust the right people, and if you make a mistake, get back up and try again. So I like this quote as well because it helps us to understand you need to take the risk, you need to make wise decisions, do what you're supposed to do, and whatever comes, let it come and roll with it. And then the next one is, if you're not taking risks in your career, you might actually be creating more risk for yourself. That's a really good one as well. And then another one, a leader who inspires others to take risks and be comfortable with failure while at the same time supporting them will inspire tremendous loyalty. This is probably my favorite quote of the whole lesson, and here's why. Because a true leader is a one who not only takes risks themselves, but they also inspire other people to do that, and then at the same time supports them while they're going through it. So if they fail, you work with them even still. I love that. That's a great quote for how to be a strong leader. Now, as we continue on, let's think about some of these following folks who took or learned from their mistakes or took the risks. Babe Ruth struck out 1,330 times but hit 714 home runs. R.H. Macy failed multiple times in retailing before a success in NYC store, New York City store. Macy's actually has their own parade, Macy's Day Parade. Theodore Geisel wrote the first Dr. Seuss book. It was rejected by 23 publishing companies. But the 24th took it on and saw great success. Now, what I wanted to look at as the last thing for this lesson is reflection on leadership. It's an article written by Kathy Holmes, and it's about a cowboy, or cowboy way of life. And these are some points that Kathy says are so important that she noticed that cowboys were using in their thinking and the way that they lived. And there are such things as modern day cowboys today that handle cattle, and they ride and rope and do all those types of things. Many of them are in rodeos as well, but they have ranches and they go and catch cows and they do all types of work, mending fences and those types of things. They're just kind of they're capable in so many ways. But she came up with these points, and I think they're very helpful for us. Number one, be a yes person. Normally, we're used to hearing people say, you need to know when to say no. And obviously, you got to know when to say no. But the cowboy was more of a yes person. When an opportunity arises, they just go after it. They say, hey, I don't know how to do this necessarily, but I'm going after it because the opportunity's here. Number two, feel the fear. It's not, I live without fear or there is no fear. Instead, I feel the fear. I understand what it is, and it will protect me. I understand that a 2,000-pound bull in an arena or working with one like that can be extremely dangerous, not only for the cowboy, but also his family, the people riding with him, the other cowboys with him, and then also his horse that he cares so much about. So you have to understand fear and what it is, but feel it. Number 3, learn from stories. Learn from what other people have done and taking that in and going forth. Number 4, do your best. So no matter what's going, do the best that you possibly can. We're not talking about perfection here. We're talking about you giving it all that you've got. So whatever that is, whatever that looks like, you give all that you've got. And number 5, find your grit. And I think Kathy Holmes in this last point makes probably the most significant point of all here when she said, knowing that when you fall off the horse, you get back on. Knowing that life's not going to always give you wonderful experiences and you're always going to be a success story and you're going to move your way up. No, it's knowing that when things are really bad, that you get tougher than you've ever been. You get grittier than you've ever been. You get stronger and your drive gets more intense and you go after it even more. And so kind of like the quote, when the tough gets going, the going gets tough. It's this mindset that you dig down deep and you keep going when you don't feel like you have any strength left. And that's reflection on a cowboy leadership. It's this idea that I'm willing to make the mistake. I'm willing to go after it. I'm willing to take chances. I want to learn from experience. I want to do all those types of things because I know I'll be better for them. And that's what we're talking about with this whole idea of cowboy leadership. So when we think about experiment and take risks, we're talking about the idea of going after things that's not in your normal wheelhouse. It's not in your daily routine or the daily experiences that you have. Instead, stepping out, learning something new, trying something new, going after something that you wouldn't normally go after. I remember what Charles Bernard was talking about, that you might speak up when normally you would be quiet, but something needs to be said. It's this idea that I'm going to step out kind of on faith possibly, or step out on this limb of uncertainty, not knowing what's going to happen, but I'm doing it because I know it's right and I need to grow. I need to get better at taking risks. And so this has been Leadership Development Experiment and Take Risk. It's so good to be with you. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. All right, that concludes our lesson for today. It's so good to be with you. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson about experiment and take risks. I know that all of us can do a little bit more in these areas because we need to grow. We need to stretch ourselves. We need to get better at in some areas that we may not know about, or maybe just some areas that we know about but we're not immersed in those. And so whatever it is, maybe it's taking a class in public speaking, maybe it's learning an instrument, maybe it's going out there and doing something that we've never done before, speaking up in one of our staff meetings or something like that. Well, it's good to be with you. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.